All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Dallas Job Seekers Club um, meeting today. We have the North Texas Behavioral Health Authority. We have Anthony Garcia and Dr. Sejal Mehta. They're going to present today. And Anthony, if you're ready, you can go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Daisy. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our presentation on self-care and identifying ways to decrease job interview stress. We would like to personally thank the Dallas Public Library for partnering with us and allowing us to present today. My name is Anthony Garcia, and I'm the Director of Compliance for the North Texas Behavioral Health Authority. And my co-presenter is Dr. Mehta, who is our Medical Director for NIPA. We also have Ms. Sabrina Connor, who is our Director of External Affairs. We want to thank you all for being here today. So please make yourself comfortable, and for the next 20 to 25 minutes, let's focus on leaving everything we came in with and take some time to sit back and focus on ourselves and our well-being. If you all could take a moment and focus on this next slide, you see a waterfall with some beautiful trees surrounding it, and you allow yourself to really listen. You can hear the water running into the stream. Let's take about 15 to 20 seconds and take a few deep breaths. Breathing in and breathing out slowly. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and as you close your eyes, you can feel yourself feeling more relaxed. You can hear the waterfall, and you feel yourself much more calm. Now you have a sense of peace and can think a little more clear. Take another deep breath and slowly open your eyes. And now that we're feeling more relaxed, let's talk about self-care and the ways to reduce stress. Today, we will be discussing ways to improve our self-care and increasing our job interview preparation skills. We will be providing many examples during the presentation. There are many reasons why we need to be mindful and focus on ourselves and pay attention to our body. When you hear the word self-care, you may think, yes, I take care of myself. I do this all the time. I pay attention to my body and I pay attention to my stress signals. But the question is, are we consistently aware and do we practice self-care every day? Are we really making this a priority in our life? We will be talking about different situations where stress is involved. And one that will be addressed today is stress we have when we're looking for a job, which I will go more in depth later. You know, we live in a society where we're always rushing to get things done from the moment we get up until the time we go to bed. We're constantly thinking of having to take care of ourselves, our health, our family, and all of our daily responsibilities. The world we live in is very fast paced, and it's very easy to lose sight of what is most important. And what that is, it's taking care of ourselves and listening to our mind and our bodies. Taking time each day and being mindful of what we can do to promote self-care is essential to reduce stress, improve our mental health, and improve our quality of life. You know, we live in a world with so much going on around us. Every day we wake up hearing about COVID-19, people protesting, we hear about politics, local and world issues, and it feels very overwhelming at times. Sometimes it feels like we're riding an emotional roller coaster. Our emotions going up and down. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed and unsure of what lies ahead. But we have to remember that we have the ability to change our thinking and work on making things better for ourselves and those around us. We need to work hard every day to live a healthier and more productive life. During this presentation, we're going to move away from the negative mentality that stress brings us and focus on seeing things in a more positive way and working on the things that we have control over. All of you chose to give some of your personal time today to sign into this presentation, and we thank you for making that choice. We will also learn to adopt new behaviors that will lead to a healthier lifestyle with improving our mental health. Remember that we have a lot of support along the way. We have our family, we have our friends, we have our community, our counselors, our doctors, and so many other people. We must also remember that we have to be accountable to ourselves if we want to see that improvement. So let's go back and think about the word self-care. What is self-care? Self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve our own health. Next, we will focus on 4 areas showing how stress affects a person. When you read the information on the slide, you can see how stress affects us in different ways and how we may go through many different emotions when we're feeling stress. Let's think about this for a while. How many of these do we experience in a given day or even during the week? So let's go. First category is mental stress. We can experience forgetfulness, racing thoughts, negative thinking, criticizing ourselves, and doubt. Next category, we have emotional stress. We have anger, restlessness, low frustration tolerance, decreased empathy, anxiety, and depression. Our third category is physical stress. We have fatigue, tightness of neck or back, stomach aches, headaches, weight gain or weight loss. And our last category is behavioral stress. For example, relationship problems, decreased productivity, sleep disturbance, either increased or decreased sleep, appetite disturbance, eating more or eating less, decreased involvement with others, such as isolation. Sometimes it could be a combination of all of these, and that's okay. We just need to know that we have control on what we can do when we are feeling these emotions on all of these categories. So next slide, here we have a young man showered with stress. And guess what? We all know what this feels like, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we have these emotions and sometimes they go up and down, and that's what stress does to us as well. Let's continue listening to why maintaining mental health is important. It's important because it helps us with living healthier lifestyles, better physical health, improve recovery from illness, decrease stress and anxiety, fewer limitations in daily living, and improve relationships, which then leads us to an improved quality of life. Moving on to our next slide, we must identify what works for us. Let's think about the ways we can reduce our own stress. Let's take a look at this diagram on stress management. Looking at this diagram, it's an organized way of looking at things and what we can do to reduce stress and live a healthier life. Let's look at a few of these. A person can seek therapy, exercise, get a hobby, meditate, experience nature, or listen to music. The list goes on and on. We just have to decide what we're going to do to incorporate these things in our life to help reduce stress. The next few slides, we're going to take a look at some examples of what we can incorporate in our daily life. Remember, these are just some examples, and you might have other examples that you would like to add. You know, we're all different. Please feel free to add to your list. The important thing is that we work on these things every day consistently. You're going to hear me saying this word consistently. It's very important that we practice this. Let's look at some ways that we can work on improving our physical health. You can fuel your body by eating a healthy, well-balanced diet and drinking plenty of water. You can set routines and daily goals. Spend time outside, invite a friend, go for a walk. Aim to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. Exercise at least 30 minutes a day. Take a deep breath, stretch often. Avoid risky or destructive behaviors such as abusing alcohol or drugs, excessive gambling, or ignoring public health recommendations. Next, we look on ways to focus on our mental health. Focus on the things you can control. Use technology to connect with family and friends. You know, we live in a different world now. You know, everything's virtual. A lot of things are virtual right now. So what we can do is we can incorporate phone calls, texting, FaceTime, Skype meetings, Microsoft Teams meeting, whatever it is to connect. Focus your thoughts on the present and things to be grateful for today. Next, listen to some music or read some books. Limit social media and daily news. Lean on your personal beliefs and faith for support. Look for ways to be part of the community. For example, volunteering, support groups. Seek out a trained mental health professional if you need it. There are plenty of resources that we include in this presentation, and they're at the very end. Moving on. Let's talk about how to handle job interview stress. We all know that it takes a lot of work to prepare to seek out a job, and we know that there is a lot of stress involved. Let's talk about a few things you can do to help decrease that stress. First, we need to prepare in advance. Think about it. What are you passionate about? Take the time to evaluate what kind of job suits you. What are your interests? Second, research the company. Knowledge is powerful. Take time to understand what the company does and identify how you would be a good fit for the company. Next, practice your interview skills with a friend, family member, somebody. You could even do it on your own in front of the mirror. Preparation is key. Schedule time to practice and do this several times. Research interview questions. On my next slide, I have sample job interview questions that we will review. Have multiple job options. Do not just rely on just one interview. Prepare yourself in case you do not get the job. Move forward with confidence and keep the momentum. Keep the momentum until you get the job. Avoid negative thinking. Focus on your strengths, your self-confidence, your self-esteem. Remember how far you've come and the experience you bring to the table. Think of I can statements. I can do it. I can do this. I will find a job. It's the optimistic approach. Bottom line is we need to believe in ourselves. We have to focus on success, identifying our goals, surrounding ourselves with people who support us. What plans do you have for your future? Are you looking for supporting yourself? Or you want to support your family? You want to buy a car? You want to buy a home? You want to take a much needed vacation? Guess what? We all have different reasons. Slide 14, we have our job interview questions. I'm going to read these. So these are some of the questions that I ask when we hire people here at NIPA. First, we have, tell us about yourself. What about this company made you interested in applying for this position? Do you have any questions about the job description? What would you do to acclimate yourself to working with a team? What are some of your outstanding qualities that you practice consistently? How do you handle challenging opportunities? What is something you would bring to this position that nobody else could? I love that's probably my favorite question. What do you like best about your current job? What do you like least about your current job? Maybe you don't have a job and that's what you're looking for, but these are the questions you need to think about. What is your ideal work environment? The goal here is you got to be open, be open with the person that you're with that interview, be yourself, address the things that you need to. Again, it's all about that confidence. Our next slide covers what we should be doing during COVID-19 to keep safe and healthy in our home, our community, and our workplace. Even though things are improving, we still need to be mindful that we are still in a pandemic. Yes, numbers are dropping and people are getting vaccinated, but we need to continue practicing safety guidelines and keeping safe. Let's go over a few of these. Wear my mask to protect myself and those around me. Stay away from large groups and practice social distancing. Washing hands regularly with soap and water. Avoid touching your face. Cover my mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. Consider vaccination. We've all heard this. We hear this every day. But again, it's very mindful that we need to take responsibility and practice this daily, all the time. On my next slide, I would like to discuss responsibility and why it is essential to live in a healthier and more productive life. Here are some examples. Scheduling, maintaining, and attending all my medical appointments. Sharing appointments with friends and family as a helpful reminder. Taking medication as recommended by my doctor. Eating a balanced diet. For example, maintaining your diet and exercise, controlling your blood pressure, getting regular doctor checkups, logging your personal health information, for example, your weight, your blood pressure, any physical symptoms you're experiencing, any mental health symptoms. And last of all, journal any ideas or questions that you have for yourself or for your doctor, your nurse, your counselor, whoever it may be. Just be mindful of those questions. So I encourage you to write your daily tasks down and place them somewhere visible. For example, on your nightstand, your refrigerator, a calendar, a daily planner, somewhere where you can see it and it serves as a daily reminder. So moving on to our next slide, we have Dr. Maida, who will speak about medications. Dr. Maida?
I don't think Dr. Mehta has joined us yet.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So I'll kind of go over this slide here. So again, we talked about, speaking with your doctor, speaking with your nurse. Again, there's times where medication is needed, but you have to kind of evaluate that, get a professional opinion. Again, speak, honestly, speak clearly with your doctor. Let him know what's going on. Let he or she know, hey, this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling anxious. I'm not saying that medication's for everyone, but again, sometimes people do take medication and it's on a case by case. So if Dr. Maida joins us, she can speak more on that. So remembering, practicing self-care is something that we can all do. We just need to make a decision to take action and motivate ourselves and work hard every day to live a healthier life and practice our self-care. So I want to thank you all for your time. Sabrina, thank you for joining me here when she's along here with NIPA. We have included several resources for you to look through at your leisure. If you need more assistance or information, please feel free to speak to someone at the Dallas Public Library, and they will contact us to provide you with more information and mental health resources. We included a slide with NIPA information, our main number, our website address, and if you need more information, just let us know. We also included our 24/7 mental health line number. The North Texas Behavioral Health Authority serves the counties of Dallas, Ellis, Hunt, Kaufman, Navarro, and Rockwall. If you're located somewhere outside of these counties, there are 4 additional information slides that list counties and their local mental health authorities. So again, don't hesitate to reach out. Plenty of phone numbers here, plenty of website addresses, and plenty of people to speak to if you need. So I want to thank you all. Have a great day, everyone. And remember, we cannot control everything in this world, but we can control on how we can take care of ourselves. Thank you. And now I'll pass it on to any questions that you all may have. And thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much for all of that wonderful information, Anthony. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. If anybody has any strategies of what they use, to practice self-care, work or at home, feel free to share that. You might inspire somebody else here today with us. If you'd like to ask your question, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. We have a question from Hugh. How do you keep yourself motivated on the job hunt when you continuously receive rejections or are ghosted by employers?
Easy, can you repeat that one more time, please?
Yes. How do you keep yourself motivated on the job hunt when you continuously receive rejections or are ghosted by employers?
I think one way to keep motivated is, again, I talked about, having that support system. We all need people, us as human beings, we're not made to live in this world on our own. We need that support system. It's it's essential. We need to reach out. We talked about, having that, taking that action and speaking about it, how you feel, be honest with what you're feeling, with your emotions. If you have someone that you can, turn to, whether it be a friend, a family member, could be your counselor, it could be a doctor, it could be anyone that you have. If you have no one, and again, I've come across this speaking to people, when they say, well, I have no one to talk to. I have nobody to motivate me and help me along this journey. Well, that's why we add these resources, because again, there's help. We're here to help in any way. So just reaching out for that and seeking that, that support. So hopefully that I addressed that question.
And Hugh, I would just like to remind you, like, it's very difficult to not take rejections or just not getting a reply personally, because we take so much of ourselves into these applications, so much time and effort. But it's not, if you get a rejection or if you don't hear from anyone, it's not personal. It's not you, it's just the company. And I think we always have to remember that when we go into our job searches.
Good point, Daisy. And that's true. And I think I talked about that in one of the slides, is about that rejection, is that we have to remember what we bring to the table. We've all have different experiences, and we all have strengths, so when you have someone who has, gives us that rejection, the key is we cannot, we got to find that motivation to keep going. We got to go think about, okay, we can fall further and further into that hole, because once we do that, it's very hard to get out of, but that's where we need to rely on people, our support system. But again, also on yourself, write down, journal some, make a list for yourself. What are some strengths that you have? We all have strengths. And a lot of the times, we forget about those, but it's very important to kind of do a self-evaluation of what you bring, what you can bring to not only to a job, but what you could bring into maybe a group, maybe it's something in the community, maybe it's something like a group like this, speaking up, and I give you all credit for being here today, because again, we're looking for ways to improve ourselves. And again, reaching out to different resources and to get that help, to help with that rejection, to help with that support. So thank you. What a great question.
Yeah, a great first question. And I know it can feel very isolating when you're job searching, but join a group. There's professional groups on LinkedIn. There's, groups on Facebook. Even joining LinkedIn, I think, is a really good place. People will talk about their personal experiences, and it kind of helps you feel less alone. And there's literally people everywhere that are out there willing to help you. And sometimes it takes a little work to find them. But if you need a list of resources, I will send some things along after the meeting to everybody about how to get in contact with our job services and some of the local organizations here in Dallas as well. Let's see, Denise put in a question. How do you help someone who needs professional help, but they will not make an appointment?
Great question, Denise. And, my background, I have about 17 years of experience as a professional counselor. And I've always told people, the most difficult thing is taking that first step. And again, there's many reasons why people don't want to seek help. We all have reasons. It's scary, it's, like you taking that next step to talk to someone and share what's going on. You're, very confidential information that's going to someone that you don't even know. But that's the reason why we're here. Sometimes it makes it easier, to talk to someone that you don't know. Maybe it's not a friend or a family member, so it's easier. Sometimes it's easier. But again, so I encourage you to try and take that next step. If they're really hesitant to take that step, again, as Daisy mentioned, there's a lot of resources. There's a lot of support groups, invite them to, maybe a social media event. Maybe there's something going on in the community. It's just, maybe it's about, hey, you got to print out some resources or maybe some coping skills on whether it be anxiety, whether it be stress, whether it be whatever it may be. There's so much out there that you can, collect for that individual. Great question. Thank you.
And I know not all of us are job searching. Does anybody have any questions about working during like this time of change and stress and, not knowing kind of what's going to happen next? And I think that's also something like here at the library, we've been closed for over a year now. And so our kind of daily work has changed a lot. Before, I could get up and walk around and talk to our patrons and, my day was a lot different. Now, I kind of like sit in front of my computer all day and I realized that that was taking quite a toll on me. So I brought a puzzle to work on during my breaks just to like not stare at the screen, to physically move from my desk and sit in a different part of my office. And it's kind of like something that I would have never thought of when we were open before, because my day was so different versus now I kind of like had to be more intentional.
You bring up a good point, Daisy, is like, you mentioned going through all this, we're living in a different time right now. So that isolation is so true, even for people who are not working remote. I hear from friends and family, we'll get calls into NIPA, when we answering, calls for people looking for help, is their number one thing is that they feel isolated, they feel enclosed, they're scared to go out. There's a fear. But as Daisy mentioned, it's very important that you find those things that you're, interested in. If it's a puzzle, if it's maybe going outside really quick, maybe to your backyard, or if you're at your apartment, wherever it may be, go for a short walk. There's steps that we can take that, we don't have to be around people. The important things that we take those steps. And again, if it's listening to music, I've been working remotely for, along with Sabrina and Dr. Maida, we've been working remotely for over a year. So it's very important that we, kind of, stop what we're doing from getting away from our desk, going outside, check the mail, taking those breaks, because it's important to take care of ourselves. So creating those boundaries is so essential. And sometimes, again, we have the resources, social media, connect with someone, and if you're getting those invitations to connect, or if you yourself need to reach out to people, do it. We gotta make that first step. Great questions. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? You could totally unmute yourself if you would like to ask your question. Or anything that you would like to share. Vanessa shared in our chat. I was once rejected for the same job 5 times as it moved through an automated system. So like Daisy said, try not to take it personally. And that's true. Job searching has changed a lot, a lot. Nowadays, when you go and ask, for an application, they send you to a website. And people don't want you to come in and ask for paper application to turn in. And so it feels very depersonalized.
That's exactly true. That's why we need to do those self-evaluations, because it's very, we can take things pretty personal, especially when it comes to rejection. We take that, it hurts, but it's very important, it's taking that step to move on and thinking about why we need to move on. We all have different reasons, right? Again, like I mentioned before, we have goals, each one of us on this phone call, we all have dreams, we all have aspirations, we have goals that we want to achieve. And sometimes there's barriers, there's things that are going to block us. And sometimes it's those rejections. But again, we can't let those rejections get in the way, because once we focus on that, we lose sight of everything else. We kind of have to put those rejections to the side and move forward. That's why I'm saying it's very important to kind of seek that support. And when I'm saying support, I'm talking that positive, optimistic support that's going to, they're going to help carry you under their wing and say, hey, we're going to do this. If it's reading a book on self-help, on, motivation, if it's encouraging music, if it's whatever it may be, there's plenty of resources. The thing is that we need to stay focused on our goal and don't let those distractions get in the way. Because it's very easy for that, to think about a person who's being bullied, rejected, somebody who's negative. We have to make that decision to, kind of exclude them from our life and say, hey, you know what? Nope, I'm going in this direction. You got to have eyes forward and think about what you want in life. And if you're persistent and consistent, trust me, you will land that job. You will reach those goals. But again, we need help along the way.
So true. It's all about being intentional and aware and kind of incorporating practices into our daily life that are going to help us live healthier lives.
Yeah, I loved your idea about the puzzles. I remember when I was much younger, Daisy, I used to do puzzles quite a bit, and it was found that so relaxing too. So again, you got to make a list of some things to kind of get your mind off things, And
yeah, because, my break used to be, oh, I'll watch a YouTube video, but that didn't really help the being in front of the screen part. So, I know I have a 15-minute break. I'm going to go over and then, once you're working on a puzzle, it's like, oh, where do I start? What am I doing? Oh, I think, like
Right.
sorting things. So you really focus in on what you're doing. And so that kind of helps you focus and kind of take your mind off things. And then I find that I'm like, once it's time to like come back to my work, I feel so much more refreshed. Okay, Vanessa shared a really good comment. Sometimes you can learn from rejection as well. It doesn't hurt to try and reach out to places that you have been rejected from and ask why to try and get some constructive feedback. It may not always work, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
I love that.
That is really good advice.
Very good advice. It's just
Does
all about.
anybody else? Go ahead.
No, I was saying just having that inner confidence, of asking those questions, we all have a right to speak up. A lot of times, we, and we have those moments, we're human, we have those moments where we feel shy, when we don't feel like we can, we want to step up and ask those questions. But honestly, if we stay silent, things don't get addressed. So it's very important to, again, look for that self-esteem. If you don't have it, if you don't have that self-esteem or confidence, speak to someone, go, again, seek a professional where they can help you with these, working on these skills. And if you're, if you're willing, if you're open-minded, trust me, you'll get there. As again, I mentioned, working with people for 17 years, I remember people coming in, and when they would leave, when we would graduate them from the program, they were different individuals. Is because first of all, they took that first step. Second of all, they believed in themselves. And last of all, they implemented of what we reviewed, And I always told them, it's not that I'm not going to go change your life. It's you have to take these steps. You've got to take this action to see that difference in your life. And again, it's going to take time. Sometimes it's faster for others. But again, as long as we're consistent and taking the time to evaluate, and we got to do this daily.
That is really good advice. Denise is going to ask a question.
Yes, I have a question about mental health and COVID. I know this has been in the world for over a year now, and this has affected everybody in the world. There's nobody, I don't think, that this has probably affected. And I was just wondering, will there be any, do you think, studies, long-term studies on how it's affected mental health? Because myself, I find myself sometimes I am in really good mood, and then some days I feel really sad, and then I'll feel really, really good again. Things look really promising. And now they're saying, oh, we could possibly have a fourth wave. And now I find myself being anxious again. And it's been this kind of back and forth thing for over a year. And I was just wondering, this has got to affect people, even those that don't normally have mental health issues. And I was just wondering if you think that there may be any types of studies, after maybe this is pretty much over with and people are able to maybe meet or talk better, or, as they get assistance.
It's a great question, Denise. And I do believe, we'll see that data, coming up in the future. One thing with data and with research, it takes time, right? So whatever we're going through within this past year, you think about, it's going to take time to see get those reports. And you're right. It's about, we have those ups and downs. I talked about that emotional roller coaster where you're going up and down, and it could be somebody who doesn't, have mental health issues. Different, but again, it's very important to kind of look at that, going through it.
Yeah.
And, when you're, let's say, for example, one way to, I think though it's getting tracked is, of course, when people seeking help, right? We do such a thing called recovery plans. So every time that a person goes into services, there's an assessment completed, and this is for children and this is for adults. So you think of this assessment, it's based on a scale. So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 being most severe, 1 not as severe. So this is the way we track things as far as in these assessments. So over time, we can kind of collect those assessments and put that in report form. And then that's where we'll hear, okay, what affected, 2020, we saw this, 2021. Thing that I can say is that with a lot of more resources now that we're virtual, and we see it much more like on the internet, on TV, we have, it's a lot easier to go seek that, help, because we're to provide telehealth services. You can go visit a doctor, using telehealth. You can talk to your counselor telehealth, so you don't necessarily have to drive over there. But the fact is, again, so we're seeing more people that are being served. So just to answer your question, we will see that, but right now we don't have any of that data. I haven't seen any of that data. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be really important, just because we in the United States, most people have probably never experienced anything like that in their lives, or their parents maybe, or their grandparents. It's just like it's hit everybody.
Exactly. We're all going through that, correct? So you think
Right.
about, anybody who's gone through some depression, and I remember hearing this term like, oh, nobody understands what I'm going through. Well, guess what? During this pandemic, a lot of people can relate. Hey, I know what it feels like to be isolated. I know what it feels like to not be able to go to a store and, be freely, have that freedom.
Exactly.
And you think about the different traumatic events that we experience,
Yes.
Sure, if you're here in the Texas area, but we just got through that storm that we had where a lot of us lost power, we didn't, frigid temperatures. These are events that, again, we've, I've never experienced them, but again, it's, we have to be aware and think about, okay, if things may happen, we have to be aware of that. And again, most of these things we cannot do on our own. We have to rely to that outside source of help. And again, be open, be honest of how you're feeling. So thank you for sharing that, Denise.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then Carlos posted here in the chat, while most haven't enjoyed working from home thing, I have some friends that actually loved it. they enjoyed not having to commute, being able to be around their kids more, and are not looking forward to back to normal, at least as it pertains to their job. What kind of advice would you give these people?
So let me clarify, is this for someone working at home that are enjoying it?
Yeah, and who are not looking forward to kind of going back to things as they were before. I think a lot of people are enjoying the flexibility of working from home, and are not looking forward to going back to the way things were.
Yeah. It's a great question, it makes you think about, and we don't know, and we see as people are getting, there's more vaccinations, there's that possibility, that probability that we'll be probably going back, we're gonna see more people out. It's been great, not having to commute, and I've always wondered, and spoke, amongst this with the NIPA team, is you think about maybe the incidence of road rage, maybe they've decreased because there's, maybe less people out on the road, but I think this has been an eye-opening experience, is that we got to think about, we got to be vigilant of what we do. We always got to practice those safety guidelines, and not take for granted, and yeah, a lot of us, we did get spoiled in, we're here in the home and we get to work from here, or whatever the situation is. But
Yeah. I also think employers are changing their attitude about, flexible work schedules and kind of how much that helps their employees, or, attracts like potential employees to their companies. So I definitely think that like the future of work is, kind of, it's already changed. And if you were able to do your job successfully from home for over a year, I think that gives you a pretty good, arguing chance when you're
yeah,
going
and
up to your
again, it's a good point, because
employer.
again, speak that, speak about that and say, because again, I feel that we're more productive at home, because again, we're not wasting that time on a commute, so if we're
That's
able
true.
to reach to a person on a meeting, I know that, I can connect with Sabrina real quick, or Dr. Maida, and say, hey, we're connected. We don't have to wait for them to come into the office. So there's advantages, right? So again, speak to your employer, speak to.
Yeah, I think there's definitely kind of like a lot of changes in the future, and I think more companies are considering flexible work schedules, allowing their employees to work from home and things like that. And maybe if your current employer doesn't, now you have all of these skills that you can take somewhere else that you've
Very
learned over
true.
the past year.
Very true. Yes.
All righty. Any other questions or comments? Anybody that would like to ask their question out loud? Last call for questions. Anything you would like to share? Okay. Well, I think that is going to be it for today's session. I did want to share our calendar for the upcoming month. We've got quite a few series coming up, and that is our calendar. It's going to show you all of our job seeker programs. And then after the meeting, I am going to share this PowerPoint and resources with everyone as well. And really exciting news, we have a virtual job fair on April 23rd. It is going to be hosted online through Zoom, just like this. And we have lots of employers that are going to be there to talk to you and share about their company and what they're looking for and things like that. And I would like to thank Anthony and the North Texas Behavioral Health Authority for presenting today and sharing this time with us and giving us these resources. Thank you so much for joining us.
We
And I
thank
think that is going to be it for today's session.
you all.
Alrighty, thank you. You guys have a great rest of your day.
All right. We'll see you all later. Take care.